Good morning, I'm Tricia with the Culinary Command Post, and today we're going to be making potatoes au gratin. So our ingredients for that is going to be our, the recipes for 4 potatoes. I had very small potatoes, so I actually made 12 potatoes. Then you're going to have 1 medium onion, and it says sliced. I like to put mine in the Ninja mixer and mix them up to where they're kind of like applesauce texture. Because my husband don't like onions, and so I kind of sneak them in there by mixing them up like that. Then we have salt and pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. And then 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter softened, which I've already softened it. 1 tablespoon of Italian herbs, and I use these Italian herbs that's already chopped up at Walmart because it's got oregano, basil, and parsley. And then we have our flour, our all-purpose flour, which I already sifted, and the recipe says 3 tablespoons. I'm going to use 6 today because I like to have more sauce on my potatoes. And then we have 4 cups of warm milk. So I've mixed the milk up. Let me grab that real fast. Here's our warm milk. So I've already warmed it up. And that's 4 cups, but if you're just using 4 potatoes, you can just half that and use 2 cups. And then our cheese, I have 3 different kinds of cheese. I have the smoked Gouda cheese. I also have the bacon ranch cheddar sliced cheese that I'm going to use. And it's got roasted garlic in it. And then the white cheddar. So you can use any kind of cheese you want. I prefer that cheese over the Gruyere, I can't say, but that's the cheese I don't like. So I switched that up. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to layer our potatoes in the pan, go make our sauce on the stove, and then come back and put some sauce on, and then put another layer of our potatoes. Now I'm going to spray the pan, and I've got the oven preheating right now to 350 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and spray the pan, and I'm going to spray a couple pans because I had more than the 4 potatoes I wanted to make, so I made 12, but they were small. So you just kind of judge what kind of pan you need for whatever potatoes you end up buying. Okay. And then I just take a paper towel and lightly go over it because sometimes it sprays too much. Now I've got the oven preheating to 350. These do take an hour to cook, and then that's with foil on. And then we're going to take the foil off for the last 20 minutes and add more cheese on top without the foil. So it does take about an hour and 20 minutes to cook. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our potatoes. Some of them. We're not going to add them all, just some of them. So we're going to layer the potatoes, and they're about an eighth inch thick potatoes. I used my stand mixer at home, which is a KitchenAid, and it has a device on the front of it, which is really handy. It'll grate 2 blocks of cheese in 3 minutes, and then it didn't take maybe 10 minutes to do all these potatoes. So I'm just making sure the bottom layer of the pan is layered with potatoes. And then we're going to go ahead and season this layer of potatoes with garlic powder, onion powder, and salt and pepper. Now you can add the sauce at the end and just put all the potatoes down, but I recommend doing it in layers just because I think it tastes better when you have the sauce on the potatoes on each layer. Okay, so that's our first layer. So I've just basically covered up wherever I seen a pan showing. I covered them up with potatoes. Okay, so now I'm going to put the seasoning on the potatoes. And we're also going to put our onion mixture, the 1 medium onion. We're actually going to drizzle it on the potatoes too. So I'm going to put half of it on the potatoes. Grab So I'm just going to take a spoonful and just kind of divide it up and put it all over the potatoes. And then the rest of it I'll put on the second layer once I get the sauce done. And you can slice the onions if you want, but I like them where they're almost like applesauce. All right, so that's half the onion on the first layer. Now I'm going to add garlic powder. And I'm just going to add a little bit of it. And you can season the potatoes with whatever you'd like. And then I'm going to put some onion powder. Even though I just put onions, I'm just going to put a little onion powder. Do this side. Just a little. And then salt and pepper. Okay, so we have our first layer ready and waiting for the sauce. So we're going to go over there and make the sauce on the stove. And on the salt and pepper, I put 3/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. You can put as much as you like. And I'm also going to add some minced garlic. Sprinkling around. And I'm going to put 1/2 Italian seasoning on that layer too. Sprinkle the Italian herbs, which is parsley, oregano, and basil. It's already cut up for you and it's fresh right there in the vegetable section in the Walmart. All right. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to the stove to make our sauce. And we need flour, warm milk, and our seasoning and the cheeses. Once you get your butter heated up, you can go ahead and add your garlic, which is four cloves of garlic, but I used 2 of them over there on the potato, so we're going to put a little bit in here. As soon as the butter melts, I'm going to add in my garlic, and then I'm going to put in my flour and cook it for at least 2 minutes, because you want to try to, you're making a roux, so you're trying to get your flour to cook with the butter. If you don't cook it for a couple minutes, it won't taste as good, so please make sure you put it in there a couple of minutes. And once the butter melts, we're going to whisk in our minced garlic and then wait a couple minutes and then mix in our flour. Okay, our butter is melted, so I'm going to put a little bit of this minced garlic in. And I'm going to turn it on low, like medium low. And then I'm going to add in my 6 tablespoons of flour because I doubled our recipe. Normally, if you just have 4 potatoes, it's going to be 3 tablespoons of flour. And then I had small potatoes and I doubled it, so I'm making 6 tablespoons of flour. Now I'm going to whisk it for at least a couple minutes because you want to get that flour taste cooked up. So let's do that. We're just going to wait a couple minutes while we're making our roux. This is our thickener for our sauce. You can use flour. Cornstarch is another thickener you can use. And you can even go ahead and add your salt and pepper to that. Three-quarters teaspoons of salt. And half a teaspoon of pepper. Now I'm adding garlic powder, and then I'll add a little bit of onion powder. And you can really season this with whatever you'd like. Other one, that one. And then just keep whisking it until their 2 minutes is up. Heat up a little. And it has like a tannish color. Okay, first thing I'm going to put in is going to be the flour, or not the flour, sorry, the warm milk, and then I'm going to add some heavy cream that I just warmed up in the microwave. Okay, that's the milk, so I'm going to whisk it around with the flour and the butter, which is the roux. And I've got it on medium heat. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some heavy cream. And that's 1 cup of heavy cream. We're going to continue whisking it until the sauce starts to bubble and thickens, and then we're going to remove it from the heat and add in the cheese. So we're actually going to melt in the cheese after we've taken it off the stove or turned off the stove. Okay, so we've got our milk in there, our onion powder, our garlic powder, and our salt and pepper, and then I put in a little bit of minced garlic. And on the cheese, I'm going to add a cup of the smoked Gouda, a cup of the white cheddar, and then a couple of the green onion cheddar in it. And I've got it on medium-high heat now. We're just waiting for it to start bubbling and get thicker. Okay, so our sauce is just now starting to bubble, so I'm going to remove it from the heat. I've removed it from the heat, and now I'm going to add in my cheeses. So I'm going to add in probably about 3 cups of cheeses, which is 1 cup of smoked Gouda, 1 cup of white green cheddar, and then 1 cup of the sharp cheddar. And you can use whatever cheeses that you like. So I'm going to mix these in just long enough for them to melt, and then I'll be ready to pour them over the potatoes. And you can put in 3 or 3.5 cups of cheese in the sauce. I'm gonna do 3.5, which is what the recipe called for. All right, and then I'm just gonna mix the cheese in with the sauce. And you can tell it's starting to get thicker. And I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning now again to the sauce. It's on the potatoes, but I'm going to add it to the sauce too. And then I also have some roasted garlic cheese I'm going to put in there. And then we're going to taste it before we put it on the potatoes to make sure that's how we want it. Potatoes au gratin is more has a cheese sauce to it, and then scalloped potatoes, the way they're different is it has more of a cream sauce. All right, we're going to taste this and make sure it's got enough seasoning in it before we add it to the potatoes. Mainly you want to make sure that it's all melted. We're going to grab a spoon. Yep. That tastes really good. I am going to add these other slices of cheese, which is the roasted garlic cheddar. And that's good. But the key on making the sauce is once you get your butter heated up and you put in your flour, your 3 tablespoons of flour or 6 if you're doubling the recipe, make sure you cook it for 2 minutes because you're trying to cook that flour taste out to make a roux. If you don't cook it long enough, your sauce is going to taste like gravy, and you don't want that. You want it to taste like a homemade cheese sauce. So just remember to cook it for 2 minutes. As soon as my cheese melts here with my sauce, I'm going to go ahead and layer them with my potatoes. And it's actually starting to get thicker as it's standing. As soon as I removed it, it even got thicker. All right. Just make sure you got them all melted. All the cheese is melted. All right. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to add them to our potatoes. Add the sauce to our potatoes. We're going to use on the big deal. This one. All right. So now we're going to pour our sauce, or spoon it, however you want to do it, onto the potatoes. Just make sure they're all over the potatoes. Now I like putting the potatoes first, season the potatoes, then put a layer of cheese sauce, then put the second layer of potatoes. You can do it you put the sauce at the end, but I think it tastes better if you layer them, because all the potatoes aren't going to get sauce if you don't do it like this. Just make sure you have cheese sauce all over the potatoes, on the first layer. All right. Okay, now we're ready to layer them with the second layer of potatoes, and then we're going to put cheese on top of that. And you are going to cook it for an hour in the oven at 350 degrees with the foil, aluminum foil on top, the first hour. Then you're going to take the foil off. In the last 20 minutes, you're going to put more cheese on top so it kind of broils the cheese. Okay, so now we're putting more potatoes on top. Just making sure they're all flattened out and they're even. Every area's got potatoes. Okay, so every area's got potatoes, and I still have enough room left at the top to put some more cheese on that layer. Make sure your sauce is spread out on all the potatoes. Just like that. All right, much better. Okay, so then now we're going to add our foil to the top of the potatoes, and we're going to put them in an oven 350 degrees. It's already preheated to 350 for 1 hour. And then we'll take them out, take the foil off. In the last 20 minutes, we're going to add some more shredded cheese on top without the foil. All right, they're ready to go in the oven. Now we're putting them in the oven for 1 hour.
All right, so here comes the next batch out of the oven.
Potato au gratin.
Yeah.
Pull over there, and then I'm gonna put the cookies.
Yep. That's it. Look at that nice color. Quite a bit of butter in there, huh?
Yeah, it has butter and cheese.